This is the position, it's white to play, and find mate in 2. This one is composed by Paul Banco in 2010. Pause the video to solve it, and when you're ready, keep watching for the solution. Alright, now let's break down how to solve these kinds of puzzles. The first thing to realize is that these pieces form a Christmas tree shape. And the unique problem with these puzzles is that your brain automatically switches into object recognition mode instead of chess calculation mode. You get stuck seeing the tree, and this overrides the pattern-based shortcuts that you would normally rely on. So how can you disengage from the recognition of this tree and reclaim your expert chess brain? The way to do it is by forcing a simple tactical scan. Give yourself a chess-related task that is straightforward and related to the puzzle. In this case, the task is made in 2, so you want to look at all of Black's king's escape squares. So here you can see that every square is covered except for the e6 square itself and f5. So really the only 2 squares that we need to control are these 2. And now we can systematically think of ways that we can control both e6 and f5. And crucially, it has to be in some hypothetical position that can be achieved in 2 moves. One of which I see is knight to d4. Yes, Black's rook is controlling it, but if our first move gets rid of Black's rook, then we would have knight d4 checkmate. The second is rook to e5 check. Again, we can also say this qualifies as a near checkmate because there's really only one thing that is stopping us, and that's the d6 pawn. If we get rid of the d6 pawn, we have rook e5 checkmate. So these near checkmates is what we're looking for. That's how a puzzle is often composed. And when we highlight the way in which Black's pieces are constrained, this lends itself to some deflection ideas. Can we get Black's rook off the 4th rank? Or can we get this pawn away from controlling e5? And once you make these 2 observations, it brings you to a very good first candidate move to calculate. That is queen to c5. Now the first line to calculate is always what if the Black king moves? Because that disrupts our initial finding of all available squares that Black's king had. So now let's do another simple analysis. Where can Black's king run to? We can see that this is controlled, as is this square. And eventually, we realize that the 3 squares that we need to control are e6, e4, and the f5 square itself. And that brings us to queen takes d5 checkmate. Simple checkmate. Now, what else could Black try? As we know, if pawn takes queen, we have rook e5 mate. And if rook takes queen, we have knight d4 mate. Again, controlling these 2 squares that we spoke of. And moving back, if rook to d4, then again, the rook is no longer controlling the d4 square itself, so knight d4 is checkmate. And any other move that Black makes would allow queen takes d5. And the way you can arrive at queen takes d5 is that it likewise controls e6 and f5. And finally, if the bishop moves anywhere else, then the f5 square is now directly controlled, which means we only need any check to control this e6 square and it'll be checkmate. And that brings us to knight f4. And that's all the variations covered. Have a wonderful day.